Okay, looks like it's 9:02, so we will officially call the meeting to order for the Public Works Committee for Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. And the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who was the second?
Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So that will constitute approval of the minutes for Tuesday, August 17th. The next item on the agenda is public comment. I understand Jan is out there in cyberspace somewhere and has some comments. So we will do what we can do to get you in, Jan, if you're not already. So you there, Jan?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, Jan. We can
Okay.
hear you, and we're at the public comment portion of the meeting. So without further ado, I think we mostly all know you, but if you just introduce yourself to start and then take it away.
I'm Jan Siebert Warmond, P.O. Box 778, Cannon Beach, Oregon 97110, and I have lived here since 1988 and love this community very, very much. And I'm going to read you a brief letter, and I'll start right now. Dear Public Works Committee members and city staff, recently I was able to speak with Trevor Mount regarding our city water usage during this past summer. It's my understanding that there is a process by which the city can take out Ecola Creek water before summer, store it in case of need or city demand, use some of it for certain purposes, and then after Labor Day, when rains usually return and city demands lessen, put back whatever is left into the creek again. After talking with Trevor, I realized I had more questions and wondered if other people did also. Might it be possible next month to have a presentation during your October meeting? It's important for all of us to have a better understanding of our Cannon Beach water rights, needs, processes, etc., especially in a time when our climate is changing more rapidly than many scientists predicted. Some questions for consideration are: how is our Cannon Beach water survey data impacted by the drought we're now experiencing, especially the past 2 years? Is it still relevant? Did the city take more water out of the creek this year than in past years? If so, why? Did the city take up to the legal limit? Can you explain our water rights for regular residents' understanding? Has the city spoken with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife about taking water out of the creek at a time of year when the creek is already at its lowest level? How does this affect the fish and wildlife in our watershed? What are the accepted uses for the water taken from the creek, besides for possible wildfires? At the August Parks and Community Services meeting, Kirk Anderson told us that the main city park was being watered through the summer by water from the creek. Who decides which water uses are allowed and when? Is there a list of these possible uses? Carolyn Probst recently told City Councilor Robin Risley that the city had not used any water from the creek since 2014-15, although they had pulled it out and put it all back. Why was the decision made to use some of the creek water this summer during a deepening of the drought? How was this decision made and by whom? What was all of the water used for? Thank you for your consideration of these important matters, and thank you for helping to protect and conserve our Cannon Beach water.
Thank you, Jan. Trying to figure out when we want to follow up on that, but I would have a question for Trevor, I guess. The main premise, I think, of what Jan said, or at least not premise, but description of withdrawal from Ecola Creek, which is a withdrawal, then a return.
Yeah.
Was that accurate?
Yeah.
So we have that, we do that. Okay.
Exactly.
So the underlying facts are accurate. And then there were some points about
It takes time to get those filters up and going. You just can't put creek water in when you need it. You gotta get water in there, get the filters going, and then you're able to utilize them. So that's what we do on a yearly basis. Get them ready in case we need them. And we needed them a little bit this year. We used them for about 3 weeks this year, and we stopped using it on Labor Day. It's strictly the springs at Labor Day, but for 3 weeks, we were pulling approximately 50 gallons a minute. And it was supplementing the 425 gallons we were taking out of the springs to the town. But after Labor Day, we stopped taking any creek water.
Was that something that was necessary, or was that just as a matter of procedure?
All of this is the demand that the town is requiring. So at that time, yes, we thought it was a good idea to introduce some creek water because the demand was still significantly high. The demand has dropped off significantly. That's why the springs aren't producing more right now. I mean, they're holding steady at about 350 gallons a minute, but that's sufficient enough for the demand that's being asked for in our community right now.
So I'm just Jan specifically asked that this get put on the next month's agenda. I want to just get sort of the underlying, what is the situation and are the underlying facts accurate? I don't have a problem. We basically just got a description from Trevor, but I don't have a problem having a line item on next month's agenda, just discussing Ecola Creek water use, the priorities, frequency, process. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's fine.
They're good, yeah.
I
Okay,
think they're great questions.
okay. So, and if you could just make that a note that next month,
Okay.
let's say 20 minutes, we'll dig into some of these items that were brought up. And my notes say Ecola Creek water rights, the method of withdrawal, frequency, use of water from the creek, and priority use. But your line item could just say Ecola Creek,
Yeah.
withdrawals.
Good.
Okay,
Can I ask a question really quick?
sure, Amber, that's you.
Can we-
Yeah.
Can we just make sure that next, like when we're scheduling this for the session, that Trevor and Karen and the Public Works Department, like that we actually go after each individual question, just so that we do address each one of Jan's very articulate questions and have the information ready?
Okay, well, I said I took some notes. I don't know.
Yeah, that will be part of the presentation. I'm assuming that's going to be the best way to do it because we don't want to keep going back and forth. So let's
Right.
just answer questions one at a time.
Answer her question, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. Okay, so we're past public comment, action items. I did not see any utility relief requests in the packet. Do we get zero?
That came in afterwards either.
Okay,
Wow, good.
all right. So my intention was is to just keep the discussion going on the utility relief issue for a while. We maybe further refine it, but again, not get to a decision point.
You want status?
Pardon me?
You want status, public work status?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss something?
It's short and brief, but
I sure
Sure.
did. No,
Absolutely.
Trevor, that was not intentional. That is an oversight on my part. Take it away.
Coming to the end of the meter module swap out. We got about 180 more modules to swap out. Kudos to the water department for getting it done so quickly. Our main focus right now is we're going to start paving the end of next week. Weather dependent, so I'm in the process of notifying all the residents for a second time that this is what's going to be happening. And so we're shooting for the end of next week. We're going to be paving East Harrison from Harrison and Hemlock to Spruce. We're also going to be paving Larch down by Les Shirley Park, you know, where you access the creek. We're going to be paving a section in there that was pretty tore up. We're also going to be paving 3 cul-de-sacs by the RV park, Glenwood Court, Kimberly Court, and Elkland Court. That's going to be happening all at the end of next week, weather dependent. That's it.
What was the first one you mentioned, Trevor?
East Harrison.
East Harrison.
Any other questions for Trevor? Thank you for the update. Again, my apologies for inadvertently skipping over that. Didn't mean to. Okay, so now moving on to the utility relief request form and update. And it indirectly relates to something that Trevor mentioned, is we all got an email from Karen as to the ion water meter module change out that came in on September 8th. And at that time, if I'm reading it right, we had 84% were installed, but we only had a 28% sign up rate. And she said basically that it seems to be flattening out, is the way I read it. And once again, I think the ion water is at least, or could be somewhat married to anything we come up with, similar to what Hefner did on when they installed their system. That's why that's in the packet again. And then before I had submitted the, proposed goals and possible guidelines, which are totally open to discussion about where we might want to go with this. So I'm going to try to just turn it over to the group here and see if you guys had a chance to think about it. And we've got some almost extra time today of where you think we are in this and have you thought about it?
I've thought about it. I went ahead and based on that memo, enrolled. So we have another, I got on it and I think it's a very good program. I would say that in my opinion, the best approach would be to identify those people that have not yet done it and somehow notify them. And I'm trying to think of if they're an owner, it's a vacation rental, and they just haven't been in town, or even contacting the vacation rental company that manages that property to see if we can do it somehow aggressively, to find out how we contact the actual owner of the residence.
Well, I think letters were sent out.
Were they? Okay.
To the registered property owner.
Okay.
And so that's pretty direct.
And I am receiving phone calls with people trying to get set up on it. So I helped them through it.
Okay, very good. So we've had a pass at the notification. That's good. Thank you.
As far as the relief for proposed goals for revised water leak adjustment survey or adjustment policy, I think those are all good points. Maybe we can take them one by one at some point and maybe discuss whether or not we agree with that bullet point and how it can be achieved, or what we're trying to achieve with each bullet point, and see if that's the best way to go about it, or if there are other ideas concerning each one of these good ideas here. I do have a comment on the relief request itself. Maybe it needs to be redone after we decide whether or not it encompasses all of these points on the adjustment policy for discussion only. And at that point, maybe rewrite it or write those items into it.
I think that's what we were gonna do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Let's
That's part of the
start
plan.
with that then. And Doug, did you put this discussion paper together?
Yes,
Yes.
and again, it was
Yeah, that was a
just,
great
it's
point.
not, it's just effort to lubricate the discussion.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
Perfect.
that's what we're gonna do, should do, want to do. But it just helps, I think, to throw out some straw man points to see, to get us going. And it seems like I've just been doing a lot of the talking on this. So today I just wanted to kind of to throw it out to the group. And that is, I think that is one methodology is we could just sort of work through the bullet points. We can decide that each one's a good idea or a good goal, or maybe throw it out.
Pretty close, yeah.
Is it
Yeah, I
okay?
think
Yeah,
it's pretty close
it's
too.
very close.
Okay.
So I
So
don't-
it's been scrubbed.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
pretty close, so.
Amber, how are you doing? How are you doing up there?
No, I have a question for you. So, and kind of for the group, just in terms of strategy or sequencing here, because I love the idea of these additions that you've shared that we've talked about now for a couple meetings. But I wonder if we should emphasize first enrollment into the Ion Water and try to, I mean, one of my questions is, should we hold is it possible to hold sessions or in order to increase enrollment, to get people to do the app, get signed up, that we actually offer little work sessions, much in the same way that the city has been offering, like, masks or vaccines and things like that, and give people an opportunity where they can actually get help, because I think that there are a lot of people who don't know how to do it and they're just like, too much work, I'm not going to do it, and that's stopping us. But then after we do a push to get people to get more enrolled in Ion Water, that we actually then go back and see what the feedback is, because then there's an attempt to get as many people on, which should hopefully reduce the number of utility reliefs, because they're going to have more knowledge about what's going on with their water. And then we address, maybe that will inform how we write this addition to the policy. And that's just what I was thinking when we were looking at this. Not that I'm against anything that we're proposing, except for maybe a sequence.
Right. Yeah, and that's not really a dilemma, but a point I've been making since the beginning is whether to use Ion. I think Ion Water is a critical part of any relief. So the only
Yeah.
question is it a carrot or is it a stick? And I think if you look down at the bullet point in the middle of the page there, and this would be the stick approach, that you must be an Ion Water registered user to be eligible for relief.
Right.
And-
That's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah, right. And
Can I make one comment?
yeah, sure, Trevor.
I talked to there's a lot of residents here that don't have computers, that don't have smartphones.
Right.
And so just if that's, you'd hate to exclude them from being able to get relief,
Yeah.
because they don't have, and they don't want a
Yeah, they
computer
don't want
or a
those
smartphone.
devices.
And
That's my only piece on that, because I have received phone calls with people, they get the letter once they get Ion Water. I said, I'm not signing up for this. Don't send me any more information on this. I don't want anything to do with it.
But maybe then there's an opportunity to have a release form that's like, for whatever reasons, like you meet the criteria. I mean, how many people do you think that actually is, Trevor?
I couldn't give you a solid number, but all I'm saying is you don't want to exclude anyone from being able to get relief just because they don't have
I see.
a smartphone.
I agree.
I see.
that's hard. I mean, I'm kind of anti-tech myself. But I went to a football game this weekend. The only way you could get in is if you had the ticket on your smartphone. And we're just going that way,
Sure.
fortunately or unfortunately. And sort of a little bit of an opposite viewpoint is either you're going with the flow or you're going to be an outlier and you kind of pay the price. I'm a little bit of a devil's advocate there, especially if it's a small percentage. I mean, I don't like the way the world's going in terms of tech, but it's like every time you turn around now, if you don't do X in a technical way, it's the price of admission.
Yes.
So if it's a small percentage, I'm not sure that they should drive the train. I'm just throwing that out.
I agree with that.
But again, I don't want to put Trevor in a position where he's,
I don't like the part that we have to force people to do it.
no, not a force.
But this is what it sounds like, that we are forcing people. If you don't
Yeah.
have it, you can't do it. I mean, that's just, there's going to be a lot of elderly people, and even some people are just not going to feel comfortable, and that's their prerogative to not do it. But I feel like if we're saying you have to do it, I don't care how old you are, I don't agree with that.
Okay, so but you still get your water service.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't be eligible for the relief program, but
Right.
you're saying that you're objecting to even that.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Well, and I've got one suggestion if I could, and that is maybe we create a helpline. And it's just a helpline that we go out and say, if you want to do this, this is a call and somebody will walk you through it. And I've done those things. That's very friendly, customer friendly, the whole bit, and you're helping the person that's not savvy. Because you're actually, it's a helpline.
I don't think that's the part they're not savvy. I think they're saying, I don't want to put it on my smartphone. I don't have a smartphone. I don't want to get a smartphone. My husband doesn't have a smartphone, I have to tell you.
Okay.
And he did, he passed it on to me, and he said, I mean, that's a perfect example. And he's not like but he just does not want a smartphone. And he said, here you are, honey. And I said, I got it. No, don't worry. He did put it on his computer, but I mean, that's just something that we have to think. Not everybody has a smartphone or wants a smartphone or a computer, so.
And water, aren't we able to notify residents when they have an increased water usage?
Like when we check meters once a month, but
Yeah.
So they would be, notified potentially of, and this benefits them anyway, whether they're signed on or not.
a leak could be active for 3 weeks before we meet
Yeah, right.
meters, I mean.
Well, I guess that's the chance that they take by not signing on is they could end up with a leak that's 3.5 weeks old.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that I don't know that we need to spend any more time on it, because if they're not registered, they're not eligible for relief, and that's all there is to it, and that's their choice, and that's fine.
And if they don't want to, it's kind of like the vaccine. If they don't want a vaccine, you're not going to talk them into it. Period. Get the vax off.
Okay, so I think that should still be on there, and the folks that don't have a computer or smartphone, then just won't sign up, and that'll be fine.
The only thing we have to do is let them know that we can help them get set up if
Yes.
they wanted to.
I
They can go
agree,
to the
Julie.
library, or, we can show them how to use that, so,
Here's the help if you want it, if you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, library is an option.
yeah,
And Kelsey does include her name and number on the letter.
Great.
exactly. So, like Trevor said, he said, people call me, I walk them through it. So it's not like we're like hiding and saying, don't, we're not going to help you. So it's everything is out there. So.
Okay. We can move back up to the top and start there.
Yeah, so the ion water, I just feel is somehow married to this. And if you go to the Hermiston example, they call it, their software is called Beacon.
Okay.
And they don't seem to tie use of Beacon to eligibility. They only, from what I can see, they only require that Beacon verify the leak. So it looks like we kind of came to a conclusion right then that we may want to use ion water as more of an incentive, but with that, we can go on to some of these other points.
Okay. First bullet, let's just maybe go right on down the line from any modification projects and increase in water conservation over time or at a minimum net neutral. Can you explain that a little bit, Doug?
Well, it's been clear to me over the last 4 years I've been on the committee that there's certainly a culture in Cannon Beach of water conservation, water use of preservation of water for all the various things that it provides. And if we're going to go down a road of we already allow relief from the sewer portion, but if we're going to start allowing relief for the water portion, we won't know this until maybe we get down range, but whatever we come up with, coupled with the ion water, coupled with the incentives to repair the leaks, coupled with some of these other bullet points about the frequent flyers, that actually the change in policy could at least show that it ends up with a net savings of water loss, or at least does no harm. That's what the first bullet point is, that this is not going to be something that negatively impacts water loss in the city net.
Okay.
While at the same time providing some relief for customers. I think both can be achieved.
Yeah.
Personally.
Have we decided then that we want to provide relief for the water portion of the bill?
Well, that's a threshold question. Yeah, right now, and I've said from the beginning, Cannon Beach is an outlier. I can't find, at least in, all the broader metro area of the state, any other jurisdiction that just says no, never. All the others do provide some form of relief. It's usually limited in time, limited in amount, sometimes limited in monetary amount. There's always conditions, but
I guess I have to play the devil's advocate and say, how is it the city's responsibility that somebody has allowed their system to become into disrepair and is leaking, or, it costs the city money to provide water, and the devil's advocate, I'm not saying that's
No, I
really what I.
we need to do this.
think at the-
We need to do this.
No,
I
but,
agree.
Yeah.
but how is it our responsibility? Does, if I leave lights on, the power company is not going to come and say, oh, yeah, you got an electric leak. We'll subsidize that for you because you accidentally left your lights on for 3 weeks. That doesn't occur for the gas company or the electric company. And it does, you're right, for all the other water utilities that I've seen also, but I'm not sure that we're solving any problems by doing that.
Well, each of the jurisdictions have a definition. They usually have the words unintentional and accidental, meaning, it wasn't some negligent act of the customer.
Sure.
It's something that probably couldn't have been foreseen. And, it just happened. And when I said we already allow sewer relief for accidents. So this would when we already have a policy of allowing relief for unintended accidental leaks.
But the sewer, I can understand why we provided relief for that, because it doesn't affect the sewer when it doesn't go into the sewer. The water is still quote unquote used, or, leaking out, but it doesn't go in the sewer, so it doesn't impact our treatment facilities. That seems logical to me, that we provide relief for the sewer because it doesn't hit the sewer. But for the water, I don't know, maybe we should and maybe we shouldn't, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
This is the discussion I think we need to have. The countervailing point maybe is and this goes back to ion water and its usefulness. If we didn't have ion water, for example, these can be, especially with the rate increases coming, these can be gigantic bills for people on, whether they're on fixed income or not. They can be a large financial hit with no relief available.
And I guess the water is different in that it can occur and, it's not like when you leave a light on, all of a sudden you can use, tremendous amounts of electricity.
Right.
It's limited to the light bulb wattage. And whereas a water leak could be unlimited potentially.
Yeah, I keep thinking.
There's an argument, I guess, for subsidizing a water.
I just keep thinking about somebody with an outside shower. Okay, well, I found a few homes like that. If someone leaves it on, unintended, accidental, a little kid taking a shower. Now, would that be relief? Because they're going to get a big, a higher water bill, more usage.
Right.
We got you, Amber. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Amber.
I think that water is one of our most precious resources. And I think that we should be really conscious and aware of the fact that any wasted water is a tremendous loss for our community and for our ecosystem. And I don't think that we should be soft on this issue at all. I think that it's a responsibility. We have this beautiful right to have beautiful fresh water, but it comes with the responsibility of being thoughtful and attentive to how we use it. I mean, I lived in Nigeria and I used buckets to take showers. I was very aware of how much water I was using. And I think that we are so detached from our usage of water. And I think that we need to be more aware of our usage. And so I don't think we should be lenient about people that forgot for 3 weeks. I think this is just my personal opinion, but our water is scarce and it's going to become more scarce and we need to protect it.
And Amber, I don't know if you heard Steve, but that's one of the things that we have been talking about. That's the big point that.
No,
Yeah.
I'm listening. I'm just affirming that I think that this is really, I've been in these meetings, Janae, so I get it. I'm just saying that I really want to remind everybody how scarce it is. And not that any of us are in a disagreement with that, but I don't think we should be lenient.
And I think, you may or may not be saying the same thing, but that's why I keep going back to the unintentional and accidental. If,
Yeah.
The example of leaving an outside shower on, I don't think
No.
that would follow our criteria.
Exactly,
But if you've got some phantom thing happening underground,
Yeah.
correct.
and you don't know it, you follow up on time, you get it repaired, you
That's-
prove to the Public Works Committee that it's a permanent repair, it's not going to happen again, you get partial relief.
Right. We've talked about that already. And I think we all agree about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking towards, if we do this is just my personal opinion, a limited scope of eligibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
To promote responsibility.
Not to be soft, like you said.
Yeah.
We're not going to be soft.
Because I think, we've seen over the last few months, these are mainly commercial accounts where, they'll have a leak in point A, they'll patch it up, a leak in point B, they'll patch it up, a leak in point C, they'll patch it up. And that's why, this is one of the bullet points here, I think we need to address that, say, you're having multiple leaks on
The same.
the same line,
You're done.
yeah, and until you replace the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then I think Trevor, you mentioned there's some that would just rather pay the bill
Paying for it, yeah.
than address the problem. So that's where I kind of get back to, want to come up with something that if it's holistic and we address those other problems like that it will be a net savings of water over time. Again, I'm speaking.
Yeah, combined with the eye on water and what we're requiring of them, I think promotes
Correct.
responsibility toward them and
Yeah.
saying, this is limited. You have to be responsible for fixing these leaks. You can submit this. We'll provide relief 1, 2, whatever times, but not on the same line.
Yeah.
I think that does promote responsible water.
Ownership.
Yeah,
They own it.
exactly. Good word, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do also, someone mentioned, I think that it's great, I think Doug, is to look at the results. What is the performance? I know that we're growing, we're adding houses here or there, but are we actually reducing the amount of water? Are we doing a better job? What is our performance? And I don't know how we track that, to be very honest, how we measure it.
We had a program, and Trevor can fill in the blanks here. We had a program, 2 or 3 years ago, where city hired a company to go find every leak they could find with technology, at least in the public right away, I think it was. They found a lot and they patched all that up, and it went from, I don't know, here to,
Yeah.
I can't give it exactly.
practically zero.
Amazing.
That was probably
Okay.
compared to what we're talking about here.
Results
I
are
mean,
great.
I think we need to maybe crow about that a little bit. We went from a lot of wastage to practically none.
Great.
Based on that program. So to me, this is kind of the last little slice
Yeah.
of tightening things up.
Okay.
Even though we're talking about relief, it's the last little slice of tightening.
tweaking.
Yeah.
Good. That makes me feel really good.
Well, yeah, it was the first reports I remember reading, there was a lot of unaccounted for water.
Wow.
And then Public Works hired the company. They went out and they just found them, basically all of them, fixed them on it. It really had a gigantic effect. Okay, I expected just kind of a freewheeling discussion. I know that Scott, you're gonna be leaving here in
Yeah.
about 7 minutes, so let's maybe just have a goal here to see what you want to do next. I don't want to keep kicking the can down the road, but at the same time, Karen says, hey, this isn't something that needs to be done right when we finish up the water.
Maybe we can go over a few more of these bullets and then
Sure.
pick it up next time.
Okay, go ahead.
Great.
So looks like number 2, we've kind of beat up with the eye on water thing, but are there any other incentives that we can think of to incentivize people to sign up? I mean, we've got no relief unless you have the eye on water. Are there others
Trying to think.
for the carrot portion of this?
Get a city bag, shopping
Yeah.
bag.
Reusable.
It's amazing what a little thing with,
That's good. Yeah. A duffel bag.
Or get one, what is, one of our cert bags or,
Yeah. A go bag.
a go bag.
that's really not, assuming we not violating any rules, like going back to like the vaccine. It is amazing how the vaccine rate went up when you offer people $50, which
Sure.
just $50. Obviously, in some communities that were underutilizing it, $50, bam, went way up. So yeah, it can be
Get a reusable
it's amazing what a
shopping
trinket can
bag.
be. Yeah.
It could be a go bag. I mean, literally people,
Yeah, but I think a reusable shopping bag,
yeah.
but, it can be reusable. You can take it shopping with you. I mean, that may be,
It's not that wild of an idea. It's really.
I
No,
mean,
it's pretty good.
I'm just saying, it's, that.
It's a great concept.
Yeah.
Now, refining it down to like what's going to really work, and that would be a good something to do. It'd be a good initiative.
Can be on it.
Well, it works at Costco to get people to sign up for the credit card, so
Yeah, exactly.
gotta work.
So,
Yeah, no,
anyways,
very
that's a
good.
thought.
We should keep that going as far as, hey, what kind of ideas could we get? Fresh ideas.
And conversely, I guess, how do we de-incentivize people to just pay the bill rather than pay attention to eye on water and things like that? So they have the resources to just go ahead and pay the bill. Is there a
I don't think there's a lot of those
de-incentivized
people
thing?
that actually just take it laying down. They just pay the bill.
No.
I mean, there may be a hotel here or there, but not a lot of the people. I think they
Yeah,
go
if
to
you're running
city
a
council
business,
if,
every penny
But
counts.
I'll tell you that from my experience, there's some property management that just pays the bill. The owners never see it. They don't care. They're getting a profit. They don't know if they can get another $10 profit. So the property management people, in my personal opinion, we could maybe contact them here or there and find out, are you aware of that? Because a lot of the people, it is arm's length. They have nothing to do with the home other than collecting the profit from the rental. That's
What
just my personal opinion.
Is there an opportunity here? And I don't know if this is the case, and maybe Trevor, you can answer this one, but is there kind of an extraordinary fee, kind of like when you're late on paying your taxes, the interest rate and everything and the penalty goes way up. And I'm just wondering if somebody is kind of, if they have an excessive amount and we could, determine what excessive amount of water waste or leak that happens, that the penalty for not addressing it becomes quite steep as a way of curtailing, like a property manager is not going to be able to sneak something that's egregious through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still a line item.
So you're asking if there's
Isn't there a
a penalty or
tiered rate anyway? So I guess when they have leaks,
the more water you use, the higher you go up in the tier system, the bigger bucks you're gonna pay.
right.
Right, but there's not a penalty, I guess is what my question is. There's not like a use penalty on top of the tiered rate.
No. And these folks that are taking advantage of this, money's not an option. They don't care about money. They got plenty of it.
Yes, I
So-
totally agree.
Quadruple their water bill. I don't even think it's gonna affect them. So that's just my opinion
Yeah,
though.
well, no, but that's a classic example, and still you're wasting a huge volume of water,
Right. Exactly.
simply because they can afford it. So
The only problem is that we're creating a policy for everyone. So we can't create a policy for just certain people.
sure,
And that's the
Right.
problem about creating an, like an extra, rate for some people. It's like, you can't just say,
Well-
just because you're not,
I'm not suggesting a special rate for some people. I'm suggesting a penalty fee for not addressing the problem.
yeah,
and maybe where eye on water comes in. I mean, it says you clearly had a leak for 8 months.
Well, leak and water usage is different though.
Absolutely.
About somebody that's irrigating their lawn for
Yeah.
12 hours a day in the middle of summer.
Hmm.
That's different than a leak.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it comes down to, what's your God-given right to use water at your house?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so I want to make sure I was understanding, Trevor. I figured when you're talking about the people that just pay the bill, they don't care. Resources. I figured those are people that weren't addressing
That's what we're
leaks.
talking about, is people that are using excess water, not because of
Correct.
the leak, but just using excess water.
Oh, all right.
I would look at the number one, like there's a tier. Number one problem is leak. Who has leaks? And like you said, we had an encounter where we had a project and went out and solved a lot of leaks. But now if there are more leaks, that's just something where that should be remedied quickly. But somebody that uses too much water, how do you say that's too much water?
That's a different question.
Right, you got eight bedrooms and 9 showers in a house?
This-
City manager wants to be recognized. Go ahead.
Tiered rates.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
That's how you do it if you're trying to go ahead and address the amount for
Yeah, very good. Tier rates. There's a difference between leak and just overuse.
Yeah.
Overuse.
Big, unintentional, accidental versus voluntary. Whatever.
Yeah.
Person wants to use a lot of water and pay the price.
Good subject.
Yeah, because that bullet was originally designed for people that I thought were not addressing leaks and preferred to pay the bill. And if I hear Trevor correctly, he's really thinking about people that just use a lot of water
Correct.
intentionally
Right.
because that's their lifestyle.
Yes.
And that's a little bit different. And as Bruce pointed out, our incentive for that is tiered rates where your rate goes up the more you consume. And there may not be, if there's uber wealthy people out there that they can withstand the rate, I'm not sure there's much we can do about that.
Now, we just went through a valve tier, right? Correct? Somebody with a 3/4 inch valve has a certain rate, someone with a 1-inch valve has a certain rate. And so it went up for people with a larger than 3/4. So we could maybe look at the same thing on usage, but that's very hard to define. The criteria would be extremely difficult, in my opinion.
Trevor, are there different costs for different size meters?
Yeah.
Yeah, just,
Yes.
so I thought there was. Okay. We've been, we beat this de-incentivized choice to simply pay the bill, bullet point up sufficiently. What ideas we come up from that? That's on that. Tiered rates, although we're already implementing, I guess those can become more onerous if we'd like to do that in the future. We see that becomes a problem, and those are always subject to change with council approval. Is that correct?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that in the last 2 years.
Okay.
And it's hard to tinker with.
Yeah,
It's a big process.
My impression from Karen a couple of meetings ago, or last meeting, was that she was satisfied with the tiers as they stand now.
Yes.
And that's kind of my feeling. That's a hard road, and it took a lot of work to get where we are.
Correct.
So maybe,
You probably need to look at how many people you have that are in that category before you start, changing everybody.
Right.
Right.
We had my last place, we had a congressman who used 70,000 gallons a month
wow.
per house.
Okay.
Swimming pool or something.
Yeah, probably so.
It was
So I guess there isn't anything else on that maybe we need to discuss. And then the next bullet point.
Thank you. I'm leaving now.
All right, thank you.
Great.
Hey, don't forget your coat.
Don't forget your jacket.
Oh, my jacket, yes. And I really enjoy this. This is a one-time thing I have to do. Thank you.
You.
So the next one, heavy on the accidental unintended leak despite proper maintenance and diligence by the
And
customer.
I plagiarize that from other jurisdictions, their definition.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Oh, wow. Given that we're kind of entering in and in the last couple of years, we're entering in, as Jan said earlier when she read her letter, we're entering into kind of unprecedented times. And I feel like states like California, and especially California, and I think we also need to think about this, is that I think a lot of these jurisdictions are changing how they're letting people use water. So like, for example, when living in California in the summer, when it's a drought time, you're not allowed to wash your car. Like you're not allowed to use your hose and wash your car. You're not allowed to fill up your pool. You're not allowed to do those things because water is so precious. And I think that I'm just suggesting that maybe as a committee, we could look in, and I don't know, Doug, if you've already done this, but I was just thinking about it as we're talking about it now, thinking about what are the new and recent modifications to policy that are happening around, the United States that are addressing these instead of the tiered, I think we have the tiered policy in place. We have the problem of people who have a lot of money that can just pay the thing, but there's more aggressive things that jurisdictions are doing now to basically make it so that you can't just pay the bill if you have the money. Like you can't use the water.
Yeah.
And I just think it's like a question.
Amber.
No, I mean, my question is like, maybe it's worthwhile for us to look into that a little bit more to see what others are doing and think about it before we lock down this policy.
Well, to me, that's a whole separate issue than leak
Yeah.
relief policy. And that's probably a large discussion for
No, it's water use is what I'm
maybe
talking
even,
about.
yeah.
But we're talking water.
I'm not talking about water use. We're talking about the leakage and unintended
Right.
use right now.
Right. We have been just now talking about the difference between the two, right? Like Bruce St. Dennis just brought up the Congress using 70 million gallons. 70,000 gallons.
Well, I totally agree that that's a concern. Oh, I'm just saying that that's a good discussion to put on the agenda,
Exactly.
but not
What we're talking
not with
about
the
right
policy, the relief policy.
Yes.
And I think we'd have to get attorneys involved with
Correct.
something like that also. We want to know even if there's a chance under Oregon State or Cannon Beach law that allows us to restrict personal
Water
use of water and what, defines a drought and all kinds of things. So,
Right.
but yeah, that's a big discussion to have. And I think that we probably should have it sooner rather than later, because your point is correct that we may be getting to a point where water becomes more and more acknowledged as a precious resource, and
Yeah.
by people who maybe don't see that right now.
Exactly.
We need to address that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. So on the water thing, on this bullet point, provide partial monetary relief. Maybe what we ought to do is look at what kind of percentage we're willing to provide in relief for the sewer portion and what percentage we want to provide for the water portion, if they're going to be different. I mean, we could do 100% and 100% of a overusage compared to previous same 3-month period for previous year or something like that, or 50% of water and 100% of sewer, or 75% of sewer and 75% of water, something that makes sense.
Right. And I don't have the stack of research here in front of me of all the jurisdictions, but that is, they go all the way from 100% to monetary formulas, whatever. But again, just using Hermiston as an example, and they have similar ion water. If an adjustment is warranted, water consumption above the typical usage will be calculated and the credit will be provided for 50% of the excess consumption. So the customer isn't going to get 100% of the water. And then some jurisdictions would couple that still, and not to exceed X dollar amount or not to exceed X cubic feet. So, I mean, that'd be a double cap, So, but in this particular case, it's 50%. Credit for 50% of the excess consumption. That's what this jurisdiction did, and that's similar to a lot of others.
Trevor, do we know what it costs us to provide cubic foot of water to a customer? I'm sure it varies but there is still
I couldn't even get you a ballpark for a cubic foot of water to produce.
just wondering if 50% still covers our costs, because we don't want to go below that, or, if our costs are,
For a rough number, Trevor, we could just take the number of cubic feet we bill. This is our billings.
we'd have to do it for like maybe a full year and then make that division, right?
So how much?
By the cost, by the cubic feet,
Yes.
I'll figure it out.
and then we could come up with an
It's
average.
like a relatively simple calculation, but it's a very rough number.
Sure.
Right.
What I'd like to do, Bruce, is just make sure that we're not
not
giving them
paying
more money than it's costing us to provide the service
Yeah, that's a good idea.
at 50%. Because, it's just kind of arbitrary at 50%. Let's just make sure that 50% covers the city's costs.
Good thought.
And then 100% on the sewer, of course, because it doesn't hit the water treatment. So 100% seems reasonable on that. Maybe we can do that quick division on those numbers for next meeting and see if the 50% covers our costs. And the education opportunity, I think that's a great point to say, well, not only do you have to have the eye on water, but also the city is diligently looking at the water use with an eye on conservation, and maybe educate the public, saying that it's a limited resource. I mean, I know they've heard it a few times, but maybe one time it'll sink in that water is a limited resource and not a right. It's a real privilege to have the amount of water that we do.
Yeah.
What other comments, Doug, do you have on that one, or Janae or Trevor? Do you have anything?
No, I think it's a great idea to find out, make sure that the
Okay.
city's right when we see them.
And then the last one is my favorite, push the easy button.
Yeah.
You got to do that.
Yeah.
Make this thing too complicated.
Whoever's brought this up several times, I agree with that, yeah, that's why if you get into the tiering and this and that, I want to try to keep it as simple as possible. I mean, hopefully it would just be we'll have to address whether I think it's only in my, view, it might just be a very simple change to the wording of the ordinance and a modification of this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a one-page thing.
Right, no.
Yeah.
The longer we make it, the more complicated it's gonna be, and people are not gonna pay attention.
A single sheet.
Yes.
Maybe this is a good point to stop.
Yeah,
Doug.
as it's about 5 minutes to 10, and the bullets below are really more of the nuts and bolts of implementation ideas. Proofs of repair and maybe frequency of the submittals, time limits for the repair, number of billing cycles, et cetera. And we can just keep going next month if that's okay with everybody else. Just keep this going. And, even at the end, if we decide to punt the whole thing, we can say we've really scrubbed it.
Correct.
And I'm
Yes.
kind of hoping that's not the result, but if it is, we say, we took a hard look at this.
Yeah.
Okay, Amber, anything at the end here where I think we're going to wrap up?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, and so Jen, could you just make a note for next month, which is October, right? Just utility relief request form and ordinance update continued or something like that, and give it
Yep.
probably another 20, make it 30. And then we'll have the Yacola Creek water rights on the agenda, and then the usual stuff. All right, any parting thoughts? Okay, the meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I have some.
Oh, sorry. I forgot good of the order, didn't I?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. I forgot two things today. I apologize. I forgot.
Okay.
I forgot Trevor and I forgot good of the order. So we're,
Good of the order. We have beach cleanup this Saturday from 10 to 1. So please sign up if you have not signed up.
What part of the beach is that on?
We are going all the way from Indian Beach to Arch Cave, Hut Point, Crescent Beach, all those, yeah, all the way to Arch Cave.
long stretch.
What's the tide going to be from 10 to 1?
It should, I haven't checked, but it's always a low tide, so
Okay,
I will, yeah,
good.
we only did it 1 year, which I had to call Salt and I said, this is high tide, I'm not doing it, and they did cancel it that year, but after that, it's been low.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a negative tide. You could really clean up a lot of stuff during that time. See if you can call it in for us.
Oh, I have, yeah.
Is it?
That's it, that's all.
Okay, but it's important.
It's important.
What's and just a follow-up question on that. What's our, you've been involved with this for quite a while, I think. Well, is it looking better, worse, or about the same in terms of the volume and what you see?
Well, it just depends on public, the public. So the people that come in and clean the beach, they always say that it's too clean. People that we live here, we know it's not that clean. So it just, it's just everybody's.
Perception. Yeah.
So, we are just happy to have people that actually like to come in for the day and clean the beach. So.
Where's the meetup point, Jenny?
City Hall,
Right here.
right outside.
Okay, now we'll get ready
Right
to,
across the street.
Okay.
now we'll get ready to adjourn. Anything else? All right,
No.
meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, thank you, guys.